Alex Burrows has been suspended by the NHL for 10 games for his knee to the head on Taylor Hall. We're going to discuss that suspension ruling coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Alright, so as we mentioned off the top, the ruling has come down from the NHL. Alex Burrows has been suspended for 10 games for his knee to the head on Devils forward Taylor Hall, which happened on Tuesday evening. We put out a video yesterday discussing what happened in the game and giving our thoughts as to what may go down here for suspension. If you missed that video, there's a YouTube card right up here. You can feel free to check that out. Also, if you haven't seen the play at all, there is a link down in the description where you can watch the play where Alex Burrows basically loses his mind after a clean check by Taylor Hall, goes berserk and starts punching him in the head and end up delivering multiple knees to the head of Taylor Hall, which has resulted in the 10-game ban from the NHL. So let's discuss what happened here and let's discuss the suspension, and then afterwards I have a little bit of a rant as I feel like the NHL, as much as I have no problem with this ruling, I still think they need to improve their consistency, and I think there's still a little bit of a theory out there by some, I'm not necessarily going to say I'm one of them, that the NHL tends to favor superstars and kind of lay off when it comes to suspension or fine. And I'm going to give a few examples of where that looks to be the case, and I'm hoping the NHL can kind of clean up its consistency with these types of calls. So let's jump into this one here first of all. I have absolutely no problem with the 10-game ban. To be completely honest, I wouldn't have had a problem if it were more. This type of behavior on the ice is completely unacceptable. He absolutely deserves everything he gets. He loses his mind here for no good reason, and there's nothing really, as a hockey fan watching a hockey game, there's nothing that gets me more upset than watching a clean check turn into a fight. I don't understand why players need to feel the need to kind of go after and start a big fight after a clean hit. When I was growing up, that's not the way hockey was. Yes, you would retaliate with your own big hit when the opportunity presented itself, and you would try to keep it clean. You don't just drop the gloves and start going after somebody because they got you with a clean hit. That's stupid, it's immature, and there's no need of it, and there's no room for it, in my opinion, in the NHL. Now, in this guy's case, Burrows went way too far, not only for starting any kind of a fight, which would have resulted in a penalty no matter what, but for making head contact with his knees multiple times, and also he was also punching, and I think Taylor Hall said he felt like he got him 9 or 10 times in the back of the head, and that's probably not counting the knees as well. So like, this was completely uncalled for. Alex Burrows is going to end up forfeiting over $100,000 in salary due to this, and really from a Senator's perspective, it might be something that's good to happen to them because he's played like absolute crap this year, and I'd be surprised if they even want him back in the lineup after those stupid antics like that. Now, surprisingly, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, Burrows does have a checkered past, and he basically is a repeat offender, but the NHL in this particular case did not use that as leverage to give him more games on a suspension. Once you're clean for 18 months without any suspensions, you're no longer considered a repeat offender, and that wasn't actually factored in. So if he would have had another one of those incidents like he's had in his past more recently, this likely would have been worse, I would think. So it's kind of, in a way, it's a little bit surprising that they only gave him 10 games because, you know, I really didn't, and to be honest, in yesterday's video, I thought it'd be closer to 6 or 7. Not that 10 isn't justified, it completely is. But if you look at the other calls and other suspensions that we've seen this season, especially, and even going back into last season, like they're just, I'm a little bit surprised they went so harsh. And it's not that it's not justified, but there's been other cases where I think they could have justified giving more games and having a more comparable situation to this, that it really kind of surprised me that they actually brought the hammer down on Burrows, even though it was completely justified. For example, another situation we talked about here just in the last couple of weeks is the Brad Marchand flying elbow and Marcus Johansson with the New Jersey Devils. Obviously, that's a case, you know, where Johansson was concussed. He's still not back in the lineup. Hard to say when that's going to happen. I mean, I guess in this particular case with Burrows, it's a little bit easier to kind of sell the idea that it was intentional, because it's obviously that it was. Marchand's play was, something that happened a little bit faster, and even though a lot of people think he did do it on purpose, it's a little bit harder to prove. It's kind of his word against yours, and I don't think the NHL can explicitly say that it was, even though they may feel that way. But considering his repeat offender, past history, etc., I'm very surprised that he only got 5 games. We're talking about a player who was concussed, knocked out of action for several weeks, whereas even though everything that happened to Taylor Hall was completely unacceptable, uncalled for, and no room for it in the game, he was fine. So as much as I agree with what was given to Burrows, and I said if they would have given him 15, 20 games or said you're done for the year, like regardless of what it was, he was acting like a child. And he was basically embarrassed that he got run over. So that's my thoughts on Burrows. But a couple other examples I want to get into that's happened in the last little while. Not some of this dates back beyond this season, but if you look at some other cases where there was nothing done, like we can go back for the incident with Sidney Crosby and PK Subban. And I'll put a picture up on the screen here so you can see it in case you don't remember. Taking Subban's head and banging and pushing it into the ice. He did that multiple times. Nothing happened, not even a fine. This seems inconsistent here. Another case, if you don't recall this, if you look at Sidney Crosby back against Ryan O'Reilly in the Buffalo Sabres, now this you can't argue with me that wasn't intentional. They were in the defensive zone. Crosby brings up his stick and gets O'Reilly right in the gonads. Now, the main reason I want to show those references of Sidney Crosby not being disciplined is there's another incident last night that happened against Vancouver Canucks forward Marcus Granlund. He's going in on a breakaway, and the Florida Panther player coming behind him, what does he do? Reaches in, boom, gets him right in the junk, and is obviously intentional. So at the end of the day here, if you take a look at all these plays and you take a look at the Burrows incident and the Marchand incident, and you look at some other incidents like the one I just referenced here, Marcus Granlund last night in Vancouver. There was also the scenario earlier with Colton Parayko shoving Paul Byron into the boards, which resulted in an injury as well. There's just been too many inconsistent plays and calls this year, and I just like to see them get it right. And I understand the referees on the ice sometimes it can be hard at a fast-paced game. You can't use video review to call penalties, but NHL player safety, you have all kinds of time to get this right. You have all these angles, you can slow it down, speed it up, hear from the player. You have no reason to get this wrong. And as much as I'm pleased with your call here on Alex Burrows, I'd like to see other players treat it just as fairly. And you gave him 10 games without calling him a repeat offender, but you've got Brad Marchand running around being a repeat offender time after time, and he only gets 5 games. Then you see these other incidents that I referenced where nothing was done. So it doesn't make any sense to me why there's so much inconsistency. And that's the end of my rant here. I want to see the NHL be more consistent with their calls and get some of this garbage taken out of the game. So certainly leave some comments down below. What do you think of the Alex Burrows ruling? Do you think 10 was fair, or do you think they should have even gone more? And secondly, do you think anything's going to be done about the two-handed slash to the junk to Marcus Granlund last night in the Florida-Vancouver game? I'll be surprised if they do anything about it, just because they've let a lot of this stuff go in the past. Don't forget as well to follow us on Twitter. You're going to see our Twitter handle right here on the screen. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, and all those social media accounts are linked in the description down below. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next time.